Good evening, you're watching Estuary News, I'm Hugh Richards. In the headlines tonight, first-class medical education in Lincoln, a new leisure development in Grimsby, and a faceless exhibition opens in Scunthorpe. And I'll be talking to Nick Kerry from Scunthorpe Hospital about their bereavement suite appeal and Tony Musgrave about Agatha Christie in Beverley. Lincoln is to have a new medical college. It'll be a collaboration between the University of Lincoln and the University of Nottingham to deliver medical training to around 400 undergraduate students in the city. Students will study at Lincoln's Brayford Pool site for a University of Nottingham BMBS medical degree. Clinical placements will take place at hospitals, GP surgeries and healthcare units all around the county. The plan is the result of funding from the Higher Education Funding Council of England and Health Education England. A new leisure development has been given the go-ahead in Grimsby. Freshney Place Shopping Centre has signed a £20 million deal with North East Lincolnshire Council for what will be known as Freshney Place Riverhead as an extension to the existing shopping centre. It'll house a new cinema, Cine World and 7 new restaurants. The scheme might create more than 400 jobs and boost the local economy by around £20 million. Work is expected to start in the next 6 months. It's a total betrayal. That's the view of Mike Hookham. A member of the European Parliament for Yorkshire and Humber says there'll be no Brexit for fishermen, claiming the Conservatives have handed the EU more power over their industry. Mike Hookham's comments come after it was announced that the fishing industry would continue to be regulated by the EU throughout the transition period, with Britain only able to be consulted on fishing rule changes. The UKIP MEP says the deal was a worst-case scenario for fishers and coastal communities. The chair of Humberside Police Federation says the use of tasers is a necessary defence for police officers to protect themselves on the front line. Pete Musgrave says they work much better in the line of defence than guns. Humberside Police first issued tasers to non-firearms officers in 2009. More than 900 of them were used by the force between 2014 and 2016.
They are, yeah, in the right situation. They protect from things like knife assaults, violent people who are wanting to assault a police officer, or they can actually be a deterrent. If you point the device at somebody and what we call red dot them, so the red dot, that can be a real deterrent and calm people right down.
Is it enough there? I mean, would you prefer? I mean, we're the only police force in the world that isn't armed. Would you celebrate the fact that we don't have guns?
Yes, I do personally. I'd like to see an increase in the authorised firearms officers. Don't get me wrong there, and I think there's an argument for that. But to arm everybody, every police officer, I think that for me personally would be a step too far.
Police have released this CCTV image of a man they'd like to speak to after a burglary in Hull. An intruder broke into the Jubilee Central Church on King Edward Street between 9:30 p.m. on Friday and 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. The intruder caused internal damage and stole property from inside the church. There are plans for a new pier in Withensea. Local campaigners met 2 years ago to discuss the possibility of rebuilding the pier, which led to the formation of Withensea Pier and Promenade Association. They say they'll rebuild the existing pier in 4 stages. It'll include a 2-storey structure at the end of the pier and create a renewable energy centre. The new design will also have a boat platform under the main deck. And meanwhile, a controversial new visitor centre had an opening ceremony at Spurn Point today. It's part of a £900,000 development by the Yorkshire Wildlife Trust, which came up against stiff opposition from campaigners who said the centre could have a visual impact on the peninsula and increase the risk of flooding. However, the Trust says the new facility will be an education space for school groups and provide viewing for wildlife. The centre opens to the public on Friday. Work on 19 socially rented homes in Grimsby has been completed. They're part of a new 70-unit housing development on Orchard Drive. The 2- and 3-bedroom homes were the result of a joint investment venture by property provider Longhurst Group, North East Lincolnshire Council and the Homes and Communities Agency. Councillor Matthew Patrick says the new homes are all about giving the East Marsh area of the town a regeneration.
It's the end of a long £7 million scheme. As you can see the area much brighter and better. And not only are people who actually live on these streets actually feeling very differently about the area, so is the rest of town and people from further afield. It's a massive difference. Yeah, it was a much more challenging area in the past. Obviously, this is part of Grimsby, which has seen a lot of decline after the decline of the docks and the fishing industry. This is one of the areas that's actually hit hardest. And we're very proud that we've managed to bring some regeneration to this area and give it a new lease of life that will take it into the 21st century.
Longhurst Group was approached by North East Lincolnshire Council because this is land that is in their ownership and we're actually leasing it from them, and they wanted to actually regenerate the area for affordable housing. And so Longhurst worked with them, and they also worked with Lindham Construction, who have been the developers on this, and we came up with this lovely development. As you can see, we did it in 3 phases. The first phase was 35 units. Then we did a further 16 units, and then where we're standing now is the final phase of 19 units, and we've kept the mix of 2 and 3 bedroom properties because we know the high demand for those within this area. It's been quite hard work at times because, as you can see, all of the properties are actually raised up because we're in a high flood risk area, so the groundworks was quite difficult. But getting the design right, because you can see we've got a slightly different design down the bottom to when we come through here and back to what the old properties are there. So we wanted something that actually blended within the area and didn't stand out, but was modern and was inviting to look at, and people wanted to live here. Everybody I've spoken to is really, really pleased with their properties. They're very happy with what we've done, and they say they're lovely and warm, and they're just nice family homes.
Well, I think it would be good to see a domino effect from this in particular, that people would actually look at East Marsh as an area where they'd actually want to move in and live, a traditional inner town community, and this will hopefully have a knock-on effect that we'll see across the whole town that, like I say, will take us forward well into the 21st century.
I mean, the East Marsh, we know the East Marsh is one of the badly deprived areas of Grimsby, and there's been high crime rates in the past. But just to bring something positive to the area, to show people care, everybody wants to invest in this area to make it better. And I think that's one of the things that's been brought, that we do want to improve the area.
A new state-of-the-art CT scanner has been installed in Grimsby Hospital. The £600,000 machine replaces an old one, which was installed in 2009. The machine is used to diagnose strokes and cancer and monitors the size of tumours during and after cancer treatment. Northern Lincolnshire and Goole Hospital's NHS Trust says it has secured funding for a second CT scanner to be installed at Scunthorpe Hospital next spring. Now, an appeal to provide a bereavement suite at Scunthorpe Hospital for families who lose their babies has reached the £100,000 mark. And I'm joined now by midwife Nick Kerry to tell me more. Nick, welcome. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
£100,000, that's fantastic. Well done.
Amazing. We're so thrilled. In just over a year, we've raised £100,000. So, wow.
And that is just over a year. How much more do you need?
We need another £50,000 to reach our target mark. So we're really hopeful that can be done really soon.
And what will it be spent on? What is a bereavement suite?
So a bereavement suite is a space, a private space where families can spend time with their baby that's sadly died. So either stillborn, late miscarriage, a neonatal death. And really what that space provides is somewhere that family can make a lifetime of memories in a really short space of time. Give them some privacy and just give them some sanctuary, somewhere to be with their baby.
And it gets them off the ward, as it were?
Absolutely. At the minute at Scunthorpe, particularly, the ladies are in labour suites with the other ladies that are having babies that are lucky enough to take their baby home. And actually that can be quite hard going for families when they're so close to crying babies and mums in labour. So, it is a really difficult journey without that added pressure.
And these families, these parents especially, I suppose, and mothers especially, can stay there for some time whilst they recover and try to come to terms with it.
Yeah, we've just been donated a couple of cold cots, and we've got cold blankets that we have, and the suite, with it being its own space, will just give those families plenty of time, as opposed to sort of staying for 24 hours or feeling like they've got to rush off. So if they've got their own space, we can then provide that time for them to be with their baby.
What are cold cots and cold blankets?
So it's just a way of minimalising sort of deterioration of the baby, because obviously once it has died, they, they get quite warm and they do deteriorate. So a cold cot or a cold blanket is something that keeps them cool, which helps them stay with their families for longer.
Now, how has this £100,000 been raised?
It's been unbelievable. We've had so much support. We've had families that have done bake sales. We've had people that have done the Mountain Three Peaks challenges, motorbike rides. We've had charity balls, masquerade ball, which was amazing. Literally everything from little things that actually add up and add up and add up to huge, massive events that people have got behind us from Scunthorpe and the local areas and really supported us.
If people want to put on an event or do a sponsored mountain bike ride or whatever it is,
if they're brave enough.
Or if they just want to hand over some dosh for this very good cause, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, it's the Health Tree Foundation at the hospital that's supporting us. They've been instrumental in this. They have the time to put into sort of supporting that charity work. So it would be the Health Tree Foundation. Hayley specifically is absolutely our link with them. We've got a Just Giving page, so you can just find the Just Giving site, and it's the Scunthorpe Maternity Bereavements Appeal, and they can donate there. Literally, just get in touch and we'll do our best to point you in the right direction.
And what are you doing? Are you cycling up mountains or anything like that?
I have got zero activity going on. I am so busy trying to look after the families, but I do like to go to the balls and get dressed up, and you know, I'm fine to support that.
Okay, Nick, thanks so much for coming
Thank you.
in. Join me after the break. Jack will bring us a roundup of all the latest sporting action, and Tony Musgrave on a production of an Agatha Christie classic. Welcome back. You're watching Estuary News. Still to come tonight, Jack brings us a roundup of all the latest sports action, and I'll be talking to Tony Musgrave on bringing Agatha Christie to the stage in Beverley. A new metal centre will open in Scunthorpe. It'll enable British Steel to supply constructional steel products and services to businesses that include major developers and house builders. The development will see the creation of 10 jobs at the company's headquarters, replacing a smaller facility on the outskirts of the town. The new plant will have further processing facilities, including cutting to length. Bridlington's Park and Ride service returns on Saturday. Buses will run regularly from Southcliffe Holiday Park to the Harbour and East Riding Leisure Bridlington. The service will be extended until 8 p.m. during the school holidays. East Yorkshire Motor Services will run the scheme. Last year, nearly 52,000 people paid to use the service, and it'll run until the 4th of November. North Lincolnshire Council has awarded a community grant to Winteringham Parish Council. The £75,000 investment will enhance the children's play area and buy new equipment. The Parish Council applied for funding from the Prosperous Communities programme from the local authority's community grants. It's hoped the adult gym and zip wire will bring in more families. And the Cleethorpes RNLI has been awarded nearly £2,000. Staff from NG raised £1,800 last year, and the RNLI was their chosen charity. Fundraising events included sports tournaments, dress-down days and bake sales. Now, a play adapted from an Agatha Christie novel goes on in Beverley next month, and Tony Musgrave from Beverley Theatre Company joins me now to tell me more. Tony, welcome. I'm not going to ask you who done it, because that would rather spoil the whole fun of the thing.
It would indeed.
Which play is it?
It's A Murder is Announced, which has been adapted by Leslie Darbon from the Agatha Christie story.
And that was originally, it was a novel. Which of her two famous great detectives is this?
Well, this is Miss Marple, who's my favourite, I have to admit.
You think so? I don't know. I quite like the fat Belgian. I like the fastidiousness.
Oh, wow.
So when and where can we come and see this production?
It's on at the Beverley Memorial Hall from Wednesday the 18th of April to Saturday the 21st of April.
Tickets available?
Tickets are available from the Beverley Tourist Information Centre or from Haller's Shoes at North Bar Within, You Move Estate Agents on Beckside, or from our website, which is www.beverleytheatrecompany.com.
Now, without giving away any clues, Tell us a little bit about the production. Where's it set and when's it set and who's in it?
Right, it's set in the 1950s in a house called Little Paddocks, which is the home of Mrs. Blacklock and her family and friends who live with her. And one morning they're quite surprised to read in the local newspaper an announcement saying that there's going to be a murder that night at 6:30 at their house. They know nothing about this, so obviously they're a little intrigued and worried. And then various people, friends and a certain Miss Marple, pop in during the day to try and find out exactly what's going on. And then obviously it culminates in, I'm not giving anything away by saying there is a death.
There is a murder,
Otherwise
yes,
people might be asking for the money back. And then of course it's down to Miss Marple, ably assisted by the local policeman, Inspector Craddock, to try and solve the crime.
Now, who do you play?
I play Patrick, who is a nephew of Mrs. Blacklock. I'm living in the house with my sister Julia, and there's also a lodger called Philippa.
Now, in a lot of these mid-20th century detectives, all sorts of families seem to be living in one house, don't they? It's just to get the people together.
Well, this is it. I mean, obviously, with it being adapted from the story, the author, Leslie Darbon, has changed some things, but regardless, you still have this household that you think, how odd. Why do people live like that?
Well, they live like that for plot reasons, don't they? Is it a big production?
There's a cast of 12, so that's quite a good sized cast size, and we have done bigger, we have done smaller, but this one's quite a nice size to handle.
Okay, and it's a long period of rehearsals, I suppose, isn't it? It's an awful lot more work than just the 2 hours walking around on stage and talking.
No, this is it. We tend to rehearse for around about 3 months, twice a week. Obviously, we're all amateurs. We all have our other jobs to do. So it's roughly 3.5 hours of rehearsals a week.
Well, you call yourself, you are amateurs strictly, but I've seen a lot of Amjam that's as good or better than professional theatre quite frequently.
Well, yes, I mean, we are described as being one of East Yorkshire's premier amateur dramatic groups, so we hopefully will make sure that we stick to that.
Keep your reputation up.
Keep the reputation going.
What is it, do you think, about murder mysteries that and with all the contrivances, the country house and all that sort of thing, that we so much adore?
I think it is just that the mystery, that people watch it and they are obviously trying to work things out themselves. So they're not just watching and waiting to see what, in this case, Marple and Craddock say at the end. They want to say, yes, I got that, I was right. And so, yeah, why not?
And it's also the familiarities of the characters as well, isn't it? Marple and Poirot both.
This is it. I mean, with all these period murder mysteries, they do tend to follow a set formula. A few years ago we did a J.B. Priestley play called Mystery at Greenfingers, and again very similar, and in fact Greenfingers has a lot in common with the Mousetrap. I don't know whether J.B. Priestley ever found this out, but there you go.
Well, I've never seen the Mousetrap, so don't spoil that one for me.
Oh, well, they always say the butler did it, don't they? But
okay,
did he?
Right,
did he?
All right. Plans for the future for the Beverley Company?
Our next production in November is going to be Blackadder Goes Forth. Obviously, it's the centenary of World War One.
At the end of the war, yeah.
Indeed, at the end of the war. We thought, well, we wanted to do something to mark it, and rather than go for some of the more obvious plays like Journey's End, Sergeant Musgrave's Dance, we thought we'd do something that reflected the trench humour of the soldiers at the time. I mean, they obviously produced their own magazines, the famous Wipers Times.
Yes, of course, yep.
You know, full of humour. It was how they got through it, and for those who were lucky enough and fortunate enough to get through it.
Tony, I'm sure it'll be a brilliant production. Come on a bit closer to the time and talk about it then, maybe.
Marvellous.
But
more than welcome to.
Break a leg with the Agatha Christie.
Thank you.
Here's Jack with all the sports news.
We'll start in the Championship, and Hull City have sent one of their players out on loan. Tigers striker Greg Lewis has joined National League side Maidstone United until the end of April. It's the fourth time Lewis left the club on loan, following previous spells at Port Vale, Scunthorpe and Stevenage. The 23-year-old has made just 2 appearances for City this season. Meanwhile, one of Hull City's regular first-team stars has been pictured taking a stroll down the street, more than 5,500 miles away. Tigers midfielder Harry Wilson joined up with his international teammates in Nanning, China, as Wales prepare for the China Cup. Wilson joins the likes of Gareth Bale and Luis Suarez in taking part in the tournament, which also includes China, Uruguay and Czech Republic. The 20-year-old on loan from Liverpool has scored 3 goals in 7 Hull City matches this season. He'll be hoping to add to his 1 Welsh cap during the competition. On to League One now, and despite losing 2-1 to Shrewsbury Town at the weekend, there were positives for Scunthorpe United to take away from the game. Right back Jordan Clark made his first appearance in 16 weeks after coming off the bench to play the final 25 minutes. The 26-year-old defender had been ever present in the Iron back line before injuring his hamstring against Charlton Athletic back in November. Scunthorpe manager Graham Alexander said the club will continue to monitor the player as he gradually is given more minutes on the field.
What I've seen in training, he's very much up to speed. I have to speak to him, most days just to see how he feels himself mentally. But physically, he looks in tip-top shape, and we know the quality that he has. So we'll just see how that goes.
And finally, in League Two, Grimsby Town's players will still be licking their wounds after their painful defeat to Derby rivals Lincoln City on Saturday. The Mariners were blown away by the Imps, conceding 3 goals in an 8-minute spell, which all but ended the game there and then. Despite pulling a goal back through Ben Davies' penalty, Town never looked like threatening what would have been a dramatic comeback. After the game at Sincilbank, I asked Michael Jolly if he'd had learned a lot about his players after the defeat.
That's true, yeah, that's true, and they're learning about me, and I think they're aware that I was unhappy with certain aspects of our display today, but like I said, it's easy to criticise. We need to stick together. We need to focus on what we can do, what we can affect, and what we can affect now is the next game, which is Coventry next week.
And that's all for today's sport. Back to Hugh in the studio.
Thanks very much, Jack. That's it for tonight. If you have a news story, then please visit our Facebook or Twitter pages as they appear under my chin, or email news@estuary.tv, or call Grimsby 01472315553, or write to us at Estuary TV, Nuns Corner, Laceby Road, Grimsby. Until tomorrow, from all of us here, good evening.